Everyone acts like sourdough has to take a lot of time, and that's just not true. I'm going to show you how to make 2 loaves with only about 10 minutes of hands-on time. That way you have 1 loaf for now and 1 to freeze. Over the past 4 years, I've experimented with removing steps from the sourdough process, trying to find out what's essential and what's fluff. I think I've come up with the method that takes the least amount of time while still giving good results. This loaf might not give you a crumb you can brag about on Reddit, but it is a reliable method to make healthy, completely natural bread at home. It'll also let you make 2 loaves so you can freeze one and bake less frequently.
Okay, let's get started. Your first step is to feed your sourdough starter at least 4 hours up to the night before you want to bake. To feed your starter, mix in enough flour and water that you will have at least 2.5 cups starter so that you have 2 cups for the recipe plus some left over to go in the fridge. You don't need to measure the flour, I just add flour first, then add a little bit of water at a time until it has the consistency of a loose paste. I used a small amount to show you how to feed the starter, but I actually prepped a lot, as you can see in the bowl on the left. Now that it's been 4 hours, I'm going to measure out my starter. I recommend 454 grams, but it doesn't have to be exact. You can see here I had about 470 grams. Next I'm adding 500 grams of bread flour. We'll also be adding a bit of whole wheat flour to give the loaf some extra flavor. So 100 grams of whole wheat flour, 2.5 teaspoons of salt, and about 400 grams of water. Next, we mix everything together. Everything you see here can absolutely be done by hand if you don't have a mixer. Start by mixing it on low. We just want to incorporate the ingredients gently. Once it's incorporated, you're going to turn off the mixer and let it sit for 20 minutes. This helps give your bread a better texture. After the 20 minutes are up, I take a look and I usually add about half a cup more flour if it's looking really wet. You can tell because it will pool in the mixer instead of forming a ball around the attachment. Next, you're going to turn your mixer to medium to knead your dough or knead it by hand. This should take about 4 to 5 minutes in the mixer and 10 to 12 by hand. You'll know it's well kneaded when it's starting to form a loose ball around the dough hook. Lightly flour your work surface and turn your dough onto it. Split the dough into 2. Squish the dough into a rectangle. You're going to pinch one side out and pull it into the middle, then repeat on the other side. It will look kind of like a chaff of wheat. When you get to the bottom, roll it up. Give it a little pat for self-esteem. Drag the dough towards yourself, using the stickiness of the work surface to create tension. Repeat with the other ball of dough. Sprinkle some brown rice flour on top of each loaf and spread it around. This sounds unnecessary but really helps make sure the dough won't stick. Then you're going to place the dough in a banneton, which is just a basket with a liner. If you don't have one, you can either use a bowl lined with a tea towel or a pan lined with parchment paper. I set up my second loaf that way so you can see what it would look like. Next, cover your loaves. I have these little hats, but you can use plastic wrap or a damp tea towel if you want. Set a timer for 2 hours and leave the loaves on the counter. After the 2 hours are up, put them in the fridge overnight for up to a week. When your loaves are done rising, you're going to preheat your oven to 450. A Dutch oven is the best way to bake this bread, so if you have one, make sure you preheat it too, but don't worry if you don't. Once the oven's preheated, take some parchment paper and flip the loaves onto it, then score them. If you don't have a lame like I'm using, just use a sharp knife. Place the loaves into your preheated Dutch oven. If you're using a pan instead of a Dutch oven, just cover it with tin foil, like you can see I'm doing here. Bake for 35 minutes, then remove the lid or tin foil and bake for another 10. And there you have it, amazing crusty bread.